Good afternoon. My name is Adrienne Ackerley, and I am your host this afternoon. To help us avoid any unnecessary background noise, may I ask, if you have not already done so, please enter your audio pin, which you will find on the right side of your screen. You simply press the pound sign, then the number listed, and then the pound sign again directly into your phone. Welcome to our Energy Edge webinar, Selling Fuel Online. This webinar is geared to take approximately 40 minutes, as we know that your time is valuable. Once we have completed, we will open it up to a short Q&A section, so please hold your questions until then, or you can simply type them in on the right side of your screen and we will address them after the presentation. If you notice on the right side of your screen, about 3/4 of the way down, you'll see a little box marked chat. You can simply type your questions right on in there and we'll get to them right at the end. Let me begin by introducing John Vrabel. John is a founding partner and the managing partner of Energy Edge, as well as our resident expert in business development with a proven track record for building businesses that are rewarded by the marketplace. John?
Hey, thanks, Adrienne, and good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining us. As we get started, Adrienne, I just want to confirm that my audio sounds okay for everyone.
You sound great.
Okay, thanks. So what we're going to do is spend about 40 minutes or so, pretty fast-paced 40 minutes, providing you with a lot of information, a lot of it having to do with changes that are occurring in the industry that we spend most of our time supporting, which is really downstream energy, propane companies, heating oil companies, commercial fuel companies, HVAC companies, and related energy services companies. And we're seeing a ton of change as our energy environment certainly is changing very rapidly, and matter of fact is likely to continue to change. Matter of fact, those of you that tuned into this week's presidential debate, saw some discussion in terms of what our energy future might look like, and it, for finally, after several decades of trying, it looks like we're really within the grasp of being energy independent in the U.S., and that's going to come from a variety of different types of energy. That creates opportunities for us, as well as requires some changes to how we think about our business and some of the things that we do. So with that, talking about the market changing, we work with a lot of different companies and wind up talking with a lot more companies in the industry, and there's a lot that's going on, in terms of what companies are doing, are executing in terms of their growth plan. We hear a lot in the industry about diversification. We see a lot of that being done, where heating oil companies are adding propane to their business. Propane companies are adding other uses or promoting other uses of propane. In terms of diversification, we see a ton, particularly in New England, things like adding backup generation. As a result of some weather events that have taken place there in New England in the last roughly 18 months now, which is certainly a popular use for propane powering backup generation. We see, companies adding other services, maybe air conditioning service to their service department. We see companies that are maybe heating oil companies now installing gas equipment or servicing natural gas equipment as their market, their customers, and so forth continue to change. There are also a lot of companies out there that are just kind of taking things as they come, one day at a time, and some of them hoping that they'll get increases in gallons. Some of them hoping that it's going to be a cold winter, so that that their business improves from maybe what they did this past year. I've spent the last, I hate to say this, but almost 30 years now building businesses, and whether it's for large publicly owned companies or it's for small independent heating oil or propane companies, and so I've always been focused on that growth plan. Every year, what's your plan going to be? How are you going to improve your business? How are you going to grow it? I see the industry, and we've been talking about this for the last several years, kind of at the same place that that maybe the industry was maybe back in the 1930s or so. The picture over to the right of a J.D. Owen coal truck many of the roots of our heating oil or propane businesses today, or commercial fuels businesses, are back in coal and even firewood. Many of those companies that still exist today were facing this transition as coal became less popular. Many of them went to heating oil and became heating oil companies. We're at that same kind of transition today. The heating oil market is changing. So if you could project yourself ahead, 10 years, 20 years, 50 years, what services will you be providing to your customers that they need at that particular time? We're going to talk a little bit today, and the purpose of this webinar was to talk a little bit about what a group of companies are doing in terms of their growth plans, where they're actually increasing the gallons that they're selling of heating oil or other fuels by actually introducing an online channel or an online business side by side with what they're currently doing. And e-commerce, some people have different definitions of it, but so just so that we're all on the same page, e-commerce is quite simply the buying and selling of products and services over the internet. Think Amazon for the sake of this webinar. Where you can go to Amazon, you can research different products. You can make a decision to purchase that. You can pay for it online. You can track that entire transaction online, and that product just shows up at your doorstep. That's what we're talking about in terms of e-commerce. Four areas that we'll go through in this webinar is talk a little bit about online sales and the results that companies are seeing. Very specific results in terms of what they're seeing as far as the results of offering online to their customers. We'll also share with you some key learnings about online fuel sales. Now, these are learnings that we've gathered over about the last 12 years. We have been actively engaged in selling fuel online. We started originally ourselves in 2000 and actually ran a business that got to be quite sizable up until 2009, and then we launched Energy Edge. We no longer operate our own business, but one of the things that we do is provide a software platform that we call the Energy Engine that companies are now using to run their own online fuel business. We'll also talk about an e-commerce business system, because there are a number of things that you need to put together in order to be able to do business online, to sell fuel online. In addition to just having a platform where a potential customer could go to a website maybe that you put up and be able to place an order. There's a little bit more that goes along with it, but it's all very manageable, so we'll walk through some of that. And then also talk about some of the results that companies are achieving. So those are the four areas we're going to cover. First, let's talk about the shift being on. And by the shift being on, we're seeing dramatic changes in terms of how consumers purchase, not just fuel, but purchase things in general. The chart that is in the middle of this page, you can see growth taking place. This is actually representative of online retail sales. So this would be anything from Target.com to Amazon to Lowe's.com to your favorite retailer.com, or companies that you don't even know that you go and you buy specialized products at. Online sales have continued to increase at almost a torrid pace, actually beyond more than the last 5 years. One of the interesting things is as we've gone through the Great Recession that started in 2008, online sales have continued to keep pace, even though many of the same retailers that run an online business as well had a difficult time increasing their sales in their brick-and-mortar stores. Online continued to move as more and more people bought online, realized the convenience of it, and continued to go to the internet to make their purchases. Point number 2 here points out one of the reasons why that's happening is we see more consumers are actually buying more online. So we have more people going online to make purchases, and those of us that are online are buying more of what we buy online. So you kind of have that double impact. And today, 80% of internet users are making purchases online. So, in the U.S. here, internet usage is virtually universal. So what we're seeing is now about 80% of, essentially 80% of the adults or 80% of the shopping public in the U.S. is actually purchasing online as well. So it's, getting to be there. It's just about everybody, including your customers. So let's talk a little bit about heating oil, because we have some very specific numbers as we get into this heating season now in the middle of October. But if we turn the dial back and look at last heating season, which most of us remember as not being the best heating season we've ever enjoyed, as temperatures were much warmer than they typically are. And what we saw was heating oil sales last season down anywhere between 25 and 40%. Depending upon the region or the area in the Northeast that the company was located. Those are the numbers that played out last year. So huge declines in volume. At the same time, however, for the same season, online fuel sales now were up anywhere from 12% to actually better than 100%. So even online fuel sales, which is relatively new, is seeing the same kind of dynamics that the retail industry overall has been seeing, as far as more people opting to buy online for the benefits that it provides to them. Three key learnings that we'll touch on. One is embrace it, don't fear it. And we'll talk a little bit about that because a lot of companies are looking at online sales and selling fuel online. I was working with one of those customers, potential customers, earlier this morning, who's just, afraid of or making sure that the online business that she wants to launch does not impact her current business negatively. One of the other key learnings is e-commerce lowers your operating costs while it also raises your margins. So very interesting dynamic there that we'll give you a little bit of information on. And also, the third key learning is knowing what it takes to run an online business. So let's talk about the first one. Embrace it, don't fear it. Back when we first launched the business that we operated for 9 years, back in 2000, we were in this position also where we had much more to gain than we had to lose. We were a company that had a full service. We were heating oil, propane service installation company doing business in about 4 states, maybe 5 states at that point. And we had, we weren't a huge company, but we were more a medium-sized company in the industry. We had about 27,000 customers, of which about 12,000 of them were full-service customers. And then we launched online. So we certainly didn't want to take our full-service customers and move them over to online. So the position that our majority shareholder at that point took, and our CEO, was, we have much more to gain than we have to lose. Even at our size in our primary market, we only had a little bit more than 10% of the market share. And he said to us, our upside is really that we have the other 90% to gain. If we look at, and that was very true, if we look at the average company in the heating oil industry, for example, the average company has somewhere between about a 3 and a 5% market share in their individual markets. So their upside is well over 90% of the customers that are available in their delivery territory that they're not currently serving. So there's a huge upside. E-commerce also provides companies that are doing that today, that are introducing that service to their customers, a huge competitive advantage, because as we see today, we have only about 9 to 12% of the fuel marketers that can transact business online. They're represented by this little wedge of this pie right here. The other 90% roughly of your competitors do not have an online strategy. So we talk with companies on a regular basis that certainly want to capture gallons in their market, and they get the secondary benefit of really having this advantage over their competitors, which helps them capture gallons. The other thing about embrace it, don't fear it, is what I alluded to before. The fear of losing full-service customers if you have an online option for your customers, and we can tell you quite definitively that fear is unwarranted. Full-service customers buy from you because they want, or they buy full service because they want peace of mind, they want the security, the convenience that comes along with being a full-service customer. They want to know that you're there to service, their heating system if they have a failure during the winter. They want that peace of mind more than anything else. They know that they're paying more for that, and they expect to pay more for that level of service. So if we look at these two case studies over here to the right, case study number 1 was actually one that we did. This was back in 01-02, so it's about 10 years old now. And like I said, we didn't want to lose our full-service customers to online. And actually, as we tracked it, it was actually amounted to less than 1%. It was 0.5% that of our full-service customers that became customers of our online business. And chances are, we know some of those customers, we were losing full-service customers at that time. They were looking for other alternatives. And we may very well have lost these full-service customers anyway. The good news about having the online solution form was we actually caught those customers as they were potentially going out the door. We were providing them with a different level of service that made more sense for those customers, even though it was a relatively insignificant number. Case study number 2 is actually one that's still going on. This is a company, it's actually one of our clients that uses our energy engine up in Massachusetts, and they've been sharing data with us over the last number of months, and this is pretty interesting. This is the source. This is where their online customers have come from. 30% of their customers, about a third of their customers, are absolutely new to the company. So these are customers they've never done business with. This is a company that's been in business for about 50 years, maybe more than that, but a long time. Very well known, matter of fact, a leading company in their particular market in Massachusetts. So they've been able to go out into the marketplace now with online and attract customers they have been unsuccessful attracting for the last number of decades. Pretty cool. Another 13% of their customers were customers they had previously lost. And this came to them from a very deliberate activity. They simply sent postcards to inactive heating oil customers that had gone to competitors for whatever reason over the last couple of years, sent them a postcard telling them about their online option, and now 13% of their online customers they've actually won back that they had previously lost. About half their customers, 52%, are customers that had formerly done business with them on a COD basis by phone. So these are the customers that would call up, what's your price? Let me get back to you. Finally place an order. These customers are now using the online platform, some of which is because they save a couple of pennies a gallon by doing that. And the company is very okay with that because, as we'll see in a couple of slides, your margins for online are greater because your operating costs are less. So this company is actually making more money serving their former COD phone customers online. So they just assume all their COD phone customers go to their online platform. And then in their case, 5% of their online customers actually were former customers that were doing, that were buying from them on a full service basis. That number actually was a little bit higher than we thought that it would be. We were projecting about 3%, and it was a little bit higher. But the company, explained to us, they said, we've been losing 5 or 6 automatic customers every month. To competitors, they've been leaving the business. Now with online, we've been able to convert many of those that otherwise were planning to leave over to online. They're in a somewhat more economically depressed area in Massachusetts, in western Massachusetts, and they have a lot of customers that have moved off of full service because the customers are pinching pennies and trying to economize on their fuel sales. So they felt just fine with this 5%, understanding that they captured those customers before they went to a competitor, and they can still make good margins serving them online. All right, we talked about this a little bit. Lower your operating costs and increase your margins, and that's something that's that hasn't happened a lot in the recent history of downstream energy. Typically, if we want to raise our margins, And we've listened to some of the experts, at some of the conventions at INARI or NEFI or the state conventions and so forth. They talk about increasing their margins. Typically, means increase your price. Well, with online, you can actually increase your margins while you reduce your price, or leave your price the same because your operating costs are less. We're not going to take a ton of time going through these, but I'm going to go through a number of them to give you an idea where these savings come from, because they're actually very demonstrable savings. Some of the largest amount comes in delivery efficiency. The average drop size for an online customer, assuming that you're following our guidelines, will average about 200 gallons. Matter of fact, we're seeing that same thing from our clients. It was one of our clients that was talking to me about a week ago about drop size. Actually pulled his data for him, and his drop size this last month in September was actually 221 gallons average drop size for his online business. That paled because his drop size for his full-service business was down in about the 140-gallon area. But 200 gallons is what matter of fact, we ran 204 gallons consistently year after year. And we see our clients as well now running their own online businesses enjoying that same benefit. The industry says that the average drop size across the entire industry is about 153 gallons. So if you're dropping 200 gallons, you're essentially dropping an additional 50 gallons at that location. And your expenses for your truck, your expenses for your driver are already covered. So your margin on that incremental 50 gallons is huge, has a huge impact. Also, delivery efficiencies. Even though these are on-demand orders for the most part that are done online, your drivers make those deliveries just like automatics. They go to the house, hook up, pump the order, and away they go. Homeowner doesn't need to be there. They're not picking up cash. They're not picking up checks, that sort of thing. So what winds up happening when you add the online business is you wind up increasing your delivery density within your service territory. So consequently, you wind up delivering more gallons per driver. So you're already paying that driver a certain payroll expense. You're getting more gallons delivered by that driver, so your delivery cost goes down on a per gallon basis. Plus, you're also delivering more gallons per truck because when you increase your delivery density. So now that very expensive asset that you have in your fleet becomes more efficient. So not only are the online deliveries, and this is kind of an interesting dynamic, not only are your online deliveries more efficient, but you're increasing your delivery density for your entire fleet. So the heritage side of your business, your full-service business, if you're a full-service company, or your full-service deliveries also become more efficient. So you actually make more money in your traditional side of the business while you're making money on the online side. On the cash management side, you also have lower costs. All deliveries, again, as long as you follow our guidelines, are prepaid. So you have absolutely no bad debt. You're not picking up checks, again, as long as you follow our guidelines, so you have no bad checks that you have to chase. If you're using an automated platform, which you absolutely should be using, because customers expect that today, is you don't have anyone in your back office that's sitting there at a terminal keying in your credit cards. You don't want to do that. And even when you're issuing account credits, you don't want to do manual account credits either. You want the system to automatically do that for you based upon what your user is doing. And you say, well, why would you be issuing account credits? Well, for example, one of the things that happens is a customer may order a fill, or say a customer orders 200 gallons, and you get there and the customer only take 180 gallons. A credit for the equivalent of that 20 gallons needs to be credited back to the account. In an automated platform, that credit is done automated, so you don't have potential for error or on the employee cost that's involved in doing that. And then administratively, there are also some savings too. You have a greatly reduced customer care expense. You have paperless processes in your office, which are much more efficient than moving paper around the office, as we customarily have done in the business. And then the third thing is, what does it take to run a business? What does it take to run an online business? And it's really not much different than it takes to run any business. I mean, one of the big things is it does take a commitment. Online is a new business for you, so you need to give it the attention that it deserves. That said, it doesn't require a lot of resources. We get the question, regularly, can the manager or the owner run the business? Well, the answer is yes, as long as that manager or owner can devote, a sufficient amount of time to it. Oftentimes, we see with, with our clients where they actually introduce or maybe groom someone else in the organization by having them run the online business, or maybe that other employee has expressed an interest, or maybe they're more computer savvy and they like the challenge of running the online business. So we have sons and daughters of owners. We have nieces or nephews of owners sometimes. In other cases, the valued employee that has kind of a computer aptitude and an interest that we work with to kind of teach them the ropes of an online business. But the good news is it doesn't take a lot of people. Matter of fact, as you get up and running, it really takes less than one full-time person to run an online business. You don't have to staff for an online business. You already have those people in the business typically. It also takes some marketing. You need to let people know. Once you build it, you need to let people know that it exists. So you need to drive traffic to your online business. We've had a lot of experience doing that over the years. One of the things that we actually provide is a roadmap, a marketing roadmap for our clients that they can follow and provide them with ongoing guidance on the key things marketing-wise that work. So, the advantage you have with us is we've done it ourselves. So we spent a ton of money over the years on trying different things that, some of which did not work, and have now gelled down our marketing roadmap to those things that do work for customers. And one of the other things about marketing, and is retention is just as important as acquisition. One of the things that we found out very, very strongly about an online business is you can actually develop strong loyalty from an online, on-demand customer that quite honestly surprised us. But you can do that through actually very effective and low-cost or almost no-cost communications to them, because remember, you're dealing with these customers electronically, so you have information dropping into their inbox, their email, or maybe to text messaging to them. So there are retention techniques where we have been able to develop, like I say, a surprising amount of loyalty from on-demand customers. We also, or you want to avoid some of the rookie mistakes, and we can talk about the rookie mistakes because we've made a lot of them ourselves over the years. You don't want to make this a manual business. You don't want to be keying credit cards or something like that in the back office. Two reasons. One, it adds to the expense of the business. So now instead of reducing your cost, you're adding cost to operate this business. You don't want to do that. The other thing is consumers today. Remember that 80% of internet users that we said are buying online. They expect a certain experience now. When they go to Amazon, it's intuitive, it's easy. They can complete the entire transaction online. By the time they're finished, they have a confirmation on screen, and that confirmation has already showed up in their inbox. That product ships, they get a shipping notification. When that product arrives, they get the final order confirmation. That type of experience upsells, actually, suggestions, recommendations, reviews. That's the type of experience online the customers are expecting today. So you certainly don't want to make this a manual business and not give the customer the same kind of experience that they expect online. The other thing we suggest is let it stand alone, at least for a number of years. What we mean by that is your online business should be its own profit center. Make sure that you're making money in the business. Make sure that you're hitting the metrics that we provide to our clients in terms of things like average drop size or the traffic to your website and the percentage of that traffic that's actually converting to customers. Understand those metrics, and it's much easier to do if you let the business stand alone. And then the other thing is setting your business rules. Business rules for online, many of them are different types of business rules than we've encountered before in our traditional business. And believe me, as we went through the years, we didn't figure these things out ourselves. We learned these things, as we encountered some different types of problems online that we would normally encounter in the traditional business. So setting business rules for your online platform and having the platform be able to adapt to how customers buy fuel online is very important, so that they have that good experience and you don't have customer service issues that you need to deal with or manual processes that you need to run in your back office. The last thing about it is and this is pretty important, is it's not all about the price. Oftentimes we'll be working with a company and they'll be ready to set up their online business and they'll say, well, okay, online I need to have the best price in the market. And our response to that is, no, you don't. No, don't go there. We'll give you, we'll walk you through pricing guidance in terms of, what's necessary for you to attract and convert the traffic that you get to your site. But it's not all about price, and this kind of captures it all. Because we've heard this over the years ourselves, and our clients continue to hear this today almost verbatim, is, I came for the price. I came because you had a competitive price on your heating oil, or your propane, or your diesel fuel, or whatever it is. But I stayed for the convenience because it's just so darn easy to do business with you that way. And that convenience has a value. And matter of fact, over time, we were able to do some things in terms of margin, enhancing margin, because customers really weren't buying just for the price. I mean, they compare price a lot of times, but they really valued the online for the convenience that it provided to them. All right, so moving into the next section, we talked about an e-commerce business system and kind of putting it all together. We talked a little bit about a robust e-commerce platform. That's one of the basics that you need. You need that technology to be able to handle the customer. Like we said before, most importantly here, and I'm not going to go over all of these, you need to meet the customer expectation in terms of the sophistication of your platform. Otherwise, you look like a company that maybe doesn't have all the security in place that they're accustomed to, doesn't have all the convenience in place that they're accustomed to, and they're likely to move off of your site and go elsewhere. You also need a realistic business plan for your online business. A financial plan, a marketing plan, a management plan. We actually, help with that. And matter of fact, you'll see in a couple of slides just a little bit a peek at a financial plan and kind of what it means. But we've been doing this so long that we these things are pretty simple for us. So we pass on that knowledge also to our clients to help them set realistic goals and then measure against those goals as you go through the course of the year. And then the third thing you need is the resources to work with you to be able to execute an online business plan. One of the resources you need, like we talked before, is you need a manager. You need somebody in your business who is accountable for this online business. And accountable is kind of the operative word there. Somebody who's held accountable for that business. The P&L of that business, the volume that you're doing through that business, are you meeting the numbers? Because if you have someone accountable, they're going to pay attention to the business. So it's important that somebody be accountable. You need a small amount of marketing resources, and we'll talk a little bit more about some of those things on an upcoming slide. It doesn't mean you need a large full-service advertising agency, or that you're going to be spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on marketing. Not by any means. Matter of fact, online is very efficient from a marketing standpoint as well. But you do need to devote some marketing resources to it, because if you just put up the site without doing some of these other things, people are going to have a hard time finding you, and you're just not going to get the potential, the volume potential out of your market. And then you also need, somebody to count on, in terms of providing you ongoing, advice about how to do business online. And, that's one of the things that we provide to our clients at no additional cost, and actually regularly, provide a newsletter just for our clients, that is specifically oriented toward tips and learnings that we have to help them, do various things in their business, reminders for the season, some of the things that they should be doing right now in October in order to drive traffic and also get customers' tanks filled at this time of the year. Okay, we talked about some planning. This is a brief financial plan, but it really says a lot. This is actually a modeling that we provide to companies that are looking or considering doing an online business, and it's fairly accurate. This is actually numbers that we hit ourselves, and that we also have our clients now hitting as well. Again, as long as you follow the roadmap. This can be adjusted for whatever size delivery territory that you have. This is an example, happens to just be set at 40,000. One of the other inputs is your margin. 41 cents is a good target gross margin. It's a gross margin that we were able to hit as we were operating the business ourselves over a very, very broad geography, actually serving parts of 10 different states. So it took into account a lot of different markets, and 41 cents was a gross margin that we could hit on a consistent basis 12 months a year. And also your actual price per gallon. This price obviously is low for today's market, but as part of the modeling, any of this can be changed. If you follow our marketing roadmap, what we expect is that in year one, you would be able to hit a market share of about 0.8% of the heating oil households. We're just talking heating oil here, of the heating oil households in your delivery territory. Now, it doesn't sound like a lot, but remember that the average company in the industry only has a 3 to 5% market share. So in the first year, we're saying, we expect you to capture 0.8% market share with your online business, growing to 1.9 in 2 years, and now growing to 3% in year 3. And then it'll continue to grow from there, but we build this plan for the first 3 years for what we would refer to as your startup phase, your business development phase. In this particular market of 40,000, what that would equate to is 300 customers in your first year, and then growing from there as well. And I'm not going to take you through all of this, but you can see what it relates to in terms of your gallons, your gross margin over the course of the first 3 years. Of course, you have expenses against that. You have to pay to get those gallons delivered, even if you're paying yourself, your full-service side of the business, or you're paying your fleet business if you have that set up as a separate operating entity. You're paying them. We're a little bit conservative with some of these numbers, but again, these can be changed. You have to invest in the marketing that we talked about. This also is a high number in terms of the investment needed in marketing, but we like to be conservative in this model. You have to account for your credit card fees, which is for online is a business that, or is an expense that is a significant expense. Again, we're being conservative. We have 2% in here. Your credit card processing should actually be less than 1.5%. So again, these can be adjusted. But you can see in this example that after your first 3 years of your startup period, you're still delivering back to the corporation $285,000 in net profit. We also talked about marketing plan. I'm not going to go through all of these in the sake of time, but we have 2 different groups of marketing tactics that we work through with our clients. One of them is what we call the Vital 6, the 6 most important things that we believe every company that's doing online should be using. Things like search engine optimization. It's a fundamental basic if you're doing business online, that site needs to be optimized so that the search engine spiders can find it. When somebody puts a search phrase into a Google search bar, you want your business to come up certainly on the first page, hopefully in the top 3 results that are on that page. Direct mail postcards, we mentioned inactive customers when we talked about the one case study. That's part of the Vital 6. Small space newspaper ads, particularly the first several years. Let local people know that you have this new business. Not very costly, but effective for driving customers, driving traffic to this. These other things really don't cost you anything in our case because they're already included in our capability within the Energy Engine. Behavioral marketing is one of those things that happens based upon how people behave when they go to the site. Those of you that shop Amazon see behavioral marketing take place on a regular basis. If I was on Amazon yesterday shopping for a particular item and I did not make a purchase, I'm going to receive an email from Amazon today that suggests to me some similar items that I might be interested in so that they now can convert me from a browser to a buyer, to a customer. That's one example of behavioral marketing. Refer a friend. We all know the importance of customer referrals and referred customers being some of the best customers. An online business should have a completely automated referral process. So you're not tracking anything. You're not applying credits to accounts or what you're doing as rewards. That should all be automated. And then the sixth thing is very important. It's e-newsletters. And these are not the 4-page printed newsletters like we're accustomed to in the industry. These are sent via email. They're much shorter than those 4 printed pages are. They can happen at the drop of a hat. You can get an e-newsletter in the through to your customers this afternoon if there's certain information that you want to communicate to them, or maybe offer a special promotion because you've got more margin in your fuel, or you want to drive more volume, or whatever you want to do. E-newsletters, and e-newsletters are extremely effective if done properly in terms of developing that loyalty that we talked about with the online customer. We have other tactics that work for some companies depending upon their market situation. We're not going to go through those, but those are some that have worked for us or have worked for others, again, depending upon the particular situation that you're in. So once you have that plan in place, the other thing that we're doing now is we're being able to understand how much traffic our clients need to see to their sites in order to hit their numbers, to hit their plan. The beauty of doing business online, one of the beauties of doing business online, is virtually everything is measurable. And here we're just looking at site traffic statistics that we've been working with now for about the last year, capturing experience from our clients, so we can get a handle on what does it take to actually convert or make sure you're getting enough customers to hit your marketing plan. In the traditional business, we might see reports after every period or maybe every quarter in terms of how well are we doing, are we hitting our numbers? In an online business, you can know that virtually every day. So you can make mid-course corrections a lot sooner, a lot easier, and pinpoint where you need to make those corrections because you can measure so much more online than we're able to in the traditional business. These metrics actually refer back to that example we looked at a couple of pages ago with that 40,000 heating oil household delivery territory. And that kind of a model in year one, sorry about that, jumping the gun here. We would target that particular type of a company would need to have 480 visits coming to their site every month, that of which 240 of them are unique visitors. Now, the difference between visitors and unique visitors is if I go to a website 5 times in the month, I count as 5 visits, but I'm only 1 unique visitor. With a bounce rate of less than 40%, we actually think now that this can actually be lower than that. A bounce rate, for those of you that may not be familiar with it, a bounce is a visitor that comes to your website, and lands on the page that they land on going into your site. More often than not, it's probably your home page. But they get there and they leave there from that page. They have not interacted with your site at all, and they typically leave very quickly. Those are bounces. The assumption there is that they got to the site, looked at what it wasn't what they were looking for, so they bounced. They left. Bounces are not typically good. So we want to keep that bounce rate under control. And then we want to convert that traffic that comes to the site. And right now, the best knowledge that we have based upon the numbers that we have is that conversion rate actually doesn't need to be all that high. We're looking at a conversion rate of about 15% of those unique visitors that actually wind up registering. So these are the types of numbers that our clients are looking at. Matter of fact, all of this is now automated right on our clients' dashboard that they look at every time they log into the site. They can see for the last 30 days what their traffic is, and then they can compare that to their targets to see if they're on track, or they're not. Down here are some other metrics that we regularly look at, some of them that we already talked about. Cost per customer acquired, I'll mention. That's something that I've consistently watched because for those of you that have been in the industry for a while, you know that the industry surveys and so forth typically peg a cost per customer acquired for a traditional business, whether it's heating oil or propane, somewhere in the neighborhood between $400 and $600 to acquire a customer. Very expensive customer acquisition process. Online is much, much different than that. Certainly, we would not want to acquire customers for more than $100 per customer. And actually, consistently, we see our clients, and certainly we have done it consistently less than $50 a customer, and with some of our tactics, actually less than $25 per customer. So very efficient customer acquisition. So, looking at the time, we're at the end of our webinar. So in terms of summary here, the results that companies are seeing today with online efforts are certainly worth traveling that road. One of the things that we've asked that generally gets people's attention is, can you acquire 100 customers, 100 new customers in a year? And most companies will say, well, no, I can't, and kind of fighting now to keep the customers I have. Well, with online, you can certainly do that, and we saw, those results back on the other page, where in that particular example it was better than 300 customers in the first year. And also, new customers also result in increased gallons, which the industry is having a very difficult time getting increased gallons. We talked about greater fleet efficiency. We talked about improving our operating margins. And certainly when you do that, you have increased operating margins, you have increased gallons, you wind up with more profit, for the company. So with that, I'm going to turn the webinar back to Adrian for comments and also for question and answer if we have it.
Thank you, John. Yeah, actually, we do. We have first question is, what's the next step? So I guess someone is interested in taking the next step. What would you suggest, John?
If somebody's interested in talking with us about online or the Energy Engine or kind of how it works and so forth, just drop us an email or give us a call. My contact information, Adrian's, is right there on the screen. I think Adrian will also be sending out to you a summary email, after this, and you can just reply to that, if you'd like to know more about online. We don't try and exert pressure on companies to go online. It has to be a conscious decision. You need to be at the point where you're ready to do it. But certainly we'll, help guide you through that process and be able to answer your questions. One of the things that we typically do for somebody from this point that might be interested is we just do an online meeting with them, or we might do a face-to-face meeting as well. But what we do in that meeting is provide a demonstration of the engine itself, and also what we call a business system outline and a market assessment. So we actually look at an interested company's individual market and their business, and provide them with essentially projections of what we believe is possible in their market based upon their market and, of course, our experience and our clients' experience. So that's typically the next step, is to spend about an hour or hour and a half with us, combination demonstration and market assessment.
Okay, and the next question kind of falls in line with that, and that is, excuse me, how long does it take? And this time of year, is it a lot of work?
I assume the person that asked that question is referring to how long would it take to kind of get an online business up and running, or set up the website using the Energy Engine platform. If that's not the question that you intended to ask, feel free, or anybody that has any questions, feel free to just open up your GoToMeeting tab on the right-hand side of your screen and just, type your question into the chat box at the bottom. But, set up, Adrian and Adrian's team actually does, most of the work, so she's probably the better one to answer that. We've just come out of what's typically one of the busy times of the year in terms of adding clients on the engine. Adrian, I know, has several that she's actively, working through now. But if we have all the information, from you, like your business rules, your things like your logo and color and graphics. I mean, we can have your business up and running in about 4 weeks. Normally, it will take longer than that, only because it takes a little bit of time oftentimes for you to, provide us with some of the information and the materials that we need, or we spend time walking through, some of the implications of setting the business rules with you. It just takes a little bit of time for you to think about that. But 4 weeks is doable. Typically, though, between 4 weeks and 8 weeks is what winds up happening for most companies to actually go live. And even when you go live, I mean, we still work with our clients on an ongoing basis. We did a kickoff meeting earlier this week that actually included 3 different meetings, where we did a kickoff meeting with management. Adrian did a customer care, where she did a system demonstration for their customer care folks, and then they also asked if I would do a kind of some customer care training for them. They were a full-service company only, and now they're adding online on demand. So, how do you handle the what's the price question now? A customer says, hey, what's your price? Before it was just talking about the benefits of full service. Now you're giving the customer choices, so you can, which is actually good for the company, because now you can satisfy the needs of more customers, which is part of what online is all about, being able to service more customers in your market, which is where you get your gallons growth. Hopefully that has that.
Good answer. Yeah. Now the other part of that, John, is how much work is it? And you touched on it. I do have a booklet, and I try to make it as easy for new clients as possible. I do all. I certainly ask for your input and get all your rule or your answers to the rules, but I do all the setup. So I try to make it as easy as possible. The next question is, what is our ballpark startup cost?
Good question. Ballpark startup cost. We do things a little bit differently to make it a little bit affordable, especially those of you that are in the industry, and are accustomed to, as we have, bought software over the years. The Energy Engine actually sits, as they would say, on the cloud. So it uses some of the latest technology, which is a huge benefit to you in terms of cost. So it's not a situation where you buy software, you have to maintain that software, you have to buy hardware to put in your back room, you have to have the communications linked to that hardware, and so forth. And then one morning you walk in and the system's down and you have to reboot, or you have to call support, that sort of thing. The engine is set up as a web-based business. So we sit on the cloud. So there's no hardware in your back room. There are no connection fees. There's no annual maintenance fees that you pay. Everything is encompassed in an annual license fee. Most of our clients pay an annual license fee of $5,900, which includes the annual license fee, the usage, the connectivity, all the hardware that we have. It also includes all your support maintenance. Which in most cases you spend more just on support and maintenance of existing software that you're using to operate your business than anything. The other important thing is all of our clients get all enhancements and upgrades to the Energy Engine at no additional cost. And those enhancements occur on a frequent basis, and those are just automatically appear for you as part of your system. So it's $5,900 per year for most clients, unless they're doing things like multiple location dispatch, or they're doing propane plus heating oil and plus commercial fuels and so forth. There may be some additional fees. So the break-even point on the engine is actually less than 2 orders per week. So it becomes an extremely profitable way for you to service customers. The only other fee that you have is your initial setup fee, and that, of course, is just one time getting everything going, initially. But like I say, for most customers, it's $5,900 a year.
Okay, good. And John, that was the last question. So I'd like to take this opportunity to thank you, John, and thank you to our attendees for taking the time for this webinar. As John mentioned, you will be receiving an email from me with instructions on how to request a more personalized demo or how to contact us should you have any questions. And again, thank you, and I hope everyone has a great afternoon.
Thanks, everyone.